The call came on a Tuesday morning while I was nursing my second cup of coffee and watching the sunrise paint golden streaks across my backyard garden. Mom's voice carried that familiar tone, the one she used when she was about to ask for something she knew I wouldn't want to give. "Sarah, honey, your father and I need to talk to you about something important." I should have known then, should have recognized the careful modulation in her voice, the way she avoided using my nickname, Sare Bear, that she'd called me since childhood. But I was distracted by the tomatoes I'd planted last spring, now heavy with fruit, and the satisfaction of seeing something I'd nurtured bloom into abundance. "Sure, Mom. What's up?" "Not over the phone, dear." "Can you come by this evening, around 7? The house I drove to that evening was the same colonial I'd grown up in, but it felt different somehow. Maybe it was the way Dad couldn't quite meet my eyes when he opened the door, or how Mom had arranged herself stiffly on the edge of the couch instead of curling up in her usual corner spot. The coffee table held a manila folder that seemed to pulse with unspoken significance. "Sarah," Dad began, then cleared his throat. "You know we've always tried to be fair to both you and Marcus. Marcus. My younger brother by 3 years, golden boy extraordinaire, who'd graduated summa cum laude from Harvard Business School while I'd spent those same years building my small graphic design business from the ground up. The same Marcus who'd married his college sweetheart in a ceremony that cost more than most people's cars, funded entirely by our parents' early inheritance gift of $950,000. We know you've been struggling since the divorce," Mom continued, her manicured fingers worrying at her wedding ring, "and we want to help." The divorce. Even 2 years later, the word sat like broken glass in my throat. David had left me for his secretary. Such a cliche I might have laughed if it hadn't torn my life in half. The settlement had been fair, legally speaking, but fair doesn't account for the lawyer fees, or the fact that I'd put my career on hold for 8 years to support his medical residency, or that the house we'd bought together was the first place that had ever truly felt like home. "That's kind of you," I said carefully, "but I'm doing fine. The business is growing, and I love my house. My house. A modest 3-bedroom craftsman with original hardwood floors and a kitchen I'd renovated myself, watching YouTube tutorials late into the night. Every paint choice, every fixture, every carefully tended plant represented my independence, my ability to rebuild." Dad opened the manila folder. "The thing is, sweetheart, Marcus and Jennifer are expecting their second child, and they've outgrown their current place." I felt something cold settle in my stomach. Congratulations to them. "They need more space," Mom said. "And your house. Well, it's perfect for a growing family, 5 bedrooms, that big backyard, the good school district." The world seemed to tilt slightly. "My house has 3 bedrooms, Mom." "Well, 3 bedrooms plus the den and your office space. It could easily be converted." She waved her hand as if rearranging my life was as simple as moving furniture. "The point is, we have a solution that helps everyone." Dad slid a document across the coffee table. "We're prepared to buy your house at fair market value, $320,000. That would give you enough to purchase something smaller, more manageable. Maybe one of those nice condos downtown." I stared at the papers without touching them. "You want to buy my house to give to Marcus?" "We want to help both our children," Mom said firmly. "Marcus needs the space, and you need the financial security. This way, everyone wins." "And if I say no?" The silence stretched between us like a chasm. Dad's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Mom's smile never wavered, but something sharp flickered behind her eyes. "Well," she said finally, "we certainly hope you'll consider what's best for the family." I left without touching the papers. Over the next week, the phone calls began. Gentle at first, Mom wondering if I'd had time to think things over. Dad mentioning how excited Marcus and Jennifer were about the possibility. Then Marcus himself called, his voice carrying that entitled whine I remembered from childhood. "Come on, Sarah. Don't be selfish about this. You don't need all that space." "I like my space, Marcus. But we're having another baby." Jennifer's already picked out paint colors for the nursery. That room with the morning sun would be perfect. My office. The room where I'd built my business, where I worked 14-hour days to meet deadlines and pay bills, where I'd cried after signing my divorce papers and celebrated my first major contract. The room with built-in shelves I'd installed myself and a window overlooking the garden where I grew my own vegetables. Find another house, Marcus. With what money? Do you know what houses cost in good school districts? Mom and Dad already helped us with the down payment on this place. The $950,000, always unspoken between us, but always there. When I continued to refuse, the tone shifted. Dad mentioned how disappointed they were in my stubbornness. Mom wondered aloud whether I was thinking clearly since the divorce. Marcus stopped calling altogether, but Jennifer began texting me pictures of their daughter's drawings, stick figures of a family standing in front of a house that looked suspiciously like mine. Then came the evening Mom showed up at my door unannounced, eyes red-rimmed and clutching a tissue. "Sarah, I need you to understand something. Your father, he's not well." I felt the ground shift beneath my feet. "What do you mean?" "His heart condition is worse than we've let on. The doctor says he needs to reduce stress, and this situation with the house." She dabbed at her eyes. "He lies awake at night worrying about both of you. About Marcus not having enough space for the grandchildren, about you struggling financially on your own. I'm not struggling, Mom, but you could be more secure. And Marcus." Her voice broke. "He's talking about moving across the country, Sarah. Taking our grandchildren where we might see them twice a year. Is that what you want? To break apart this family over a house?" I stared at her, seeing the master manipulator who'd raised me, who'd taught me that love was conditional and family loyalty was currency. But I also saw something else: desperation. The fear of a woman watching her carefully constructed world threaten to crumble. "The house isn't for sale, Mom." Her tears dried up with remarkable speed. "I see. Well, I hope you'll remember that some things are more important than property when your father has his next heart attack." After she left, I poured myself a glass of wine and walked through my house room by room. 3 bedrooms, not 5. A cozy den with built-in bookshelves where I liked to read on Sunday afternoons. My office with its perfect morning light and view of the tomato plants. The kitchen with cabinets I'd painted sage green and countertops I'd saved for 2 years to replace. This wasn't just a house, it was proof that I could rebuild, that I was more than the sum of other people's expectations. It was mine in a way nothing had ever been mine before. But doubt crept in anyway. Was I being selfish? Was I prioritizing my own comfort over my brother's growing family? Was I responsible if Dad's stress led to health problems? The answer came 2 days later when I ran into Jennifer at the grocery store. She was pushing a cart loaded with organic produce and artisanal bread, wearing workout clothes that cost more than I spent on groceries in a month. "Oh, Sarah!" Perfect timing. She smiled with practiced warmth. "I was just telling Marcus how much little Sophia loves your backyard. She calls it Aunt Sarah's magic garden. It'll be so wonderful when it's really hers." "When what's really hers?" Jennifer's smile faltered slightly. "Well, I mean, when we move in. Marcus said you'd agreed to sell." The casual certainty in her voice, the assumption that my refusal was merely a negotiation tactic, crystallized everything I'd been feeling into cold, hard anger. I haven't agreed to anything. Oh, Jennifer blinked, clearly unprepared for this response. But your parents said, they already had us meet with their contractor about converting your office into a nursery. They'd had a contractor look at my house. Without asking, without my permission. While I was at work, they'd probably used the spare key I'd given them for emergencies and walked through my home with strangers, planning how to divvy up my life. My house isn't for sale, Jennifer. Her face hardened. Well, I think that's incredibly selfish of you. Your parents are just trying to help everyone, and you're being difficult. That night, I called my best friend Rachel, who listened to the whole story without interruption. They're gaslighting you, she said finally, making you feel guilty for setting boundaries. The question is, what are you going to do about it? What was I going to do? For 34 years, I'd been the accommodating daughter, the one who smoothed over conflicts and put family peace above my own needs. I'd majored in art instead of business because it was less threatening to Marcus's ambitions. I'd accepted smaller Christmas gifts because Marcus's student loans are so much more expensive than yours. I'd smiled through countless dinners where my accomplishments were met with polite interest while Marcus's every minor success was celebrated like a Nobel Prize. But this was different. This was my home, my sanctuary, my proof that I could stand on my own. And they wanted to take it away as casually as they might ask to borrow a cup of sugar. I'm going to fight back, I told Rachel. Good for you. What's your plan? I looked out my window at the garden I'd planted, the life I'd built from nothing. I'm going to show them exactly how valuable this house really is. The next morning, I called a real estate agent, not the family friend Mom had suggested, but a sharp young woman with a reputation for getting top dollar. I asked her to do a comprehensive market analysis of my property. Your parents are lowballing you by at least $80,000, she said, after examining the recent renovations, the mature landscaping, the sought-after neighborhood. This house would sell for $400,000 minimum in today's market. $400,000. They'd offered me $320 for a house worth $400, planning to hand it over to Marcus for free. The same Marcus who'd already received nearly $1 million in gifts, while I'd gotten a $20 gift card to Target for my last birthday. But I wasn't interested in selling to strangers. I had a better idea. That evening, I drafted a letter to my parents. Not an email, not a text, but a formal letter printed on my business letterhead and delivered by certified mail. Dear Mom and Dad, after careful consideration, I have decided to accept your offer to purchase my home. However, I must insist on fair market value, which according to professional appraisal is $400,000. Additionally, I will need to subtract the $950,000 gift you provided to Marcus from his portion of any future inheritance to ensure equitable treatment of both children. If these terms are acceptable, please have your attorney draw up the appropriate contracts. Love, Sarah. The phone started ringing within an hour of delivery. Sarah, this is ridiculous. Dad's voice was tight with controlled anger. We're trying to help you, and you're treating this like some kind of business transaction. Isn't it? I asked calmly. You're asking me to sell my house below market value so you can give it to Marcus. That sounds like a business transaction to me. We're family. Exactly. Which is why Marcus should pay the same fair price anyone else would pay. You know he can't afford $400,000. Then maybe he should look at houses in his price range. The silence stretched long enough that I wondered if he'd hung up. Finally, you're being vindictive, Sarah. This isn't like you. Maybe it wasn't like the old me, the one who'd spent her life shrinking herself to make everyone else comfortable. But it was exactly like the new me, the one who'd learned that being accommodating was just another word for being taken advantage of. Mom tried next, alternating between tears and anger. How can you put money ahead of family? We raised you better than this. You raised me to know my worth, I replied. I'm worth more than $320. Marcus was less diplomatic. You're being a vindictive bitch, Sarah. All because you're jealous that I married someone who actually loves me. That one stung, but I held my ground. If Jennifer loves you so much, she should be happy to live anywhere with you. Why does it have to be my house? Because it's perfect for us. Then pay what it's worth. The family pressure campaign intensified. Aunts and uncles I hadn't heard from in years called to express their disappointment in my selfishness. Cousins sent passive-aggressive Facebook messages about the importance of family unity. Even my elderly grandmother was enlisted to guilt-trip me about how families should stick together in hard times. But Rachel had warned me this would happen. When you stop being the family scapegoat, she'd said, they'll pull out all the stops to get you back in line. I disconnected my landline and blocked the worst offenders on social media. I focused on my work, my garden, my own life. For the first time in years, I felt clear-headed and strong. Then Marcus played his final card. The letter arrived on legal letterhead. A cease and desist order claiming I was harassing his family by refusing reasonable offers and making unreasonable demands regarding our parents' attempts to help mediate a family property dispute. The letter was ridiculous. No judge would side with someone claiming harassment because I wouldn't sell my house, but it revealed how desperate they'd become and how far they were willing to go to get what they wanted. That's when I decided to go nuclear. I called the real estate agent back. I want to put the house on the market. For $400? For $450. And I want a fast closing. The house sold in 3 days to a young couple with twin toddlers who fell in love with the backyard garden. They offered full asking price and could close in 2 weeks. I didn't tell my family until the contracts were signed. The explosion was immediate and spectacular. Dad showed up at my office, red-faced and shouting about betrayal and spite. Mom called me cruel and vindictive. Marcus left a voicemail so profanity-laced that I saved it as evidence of his character in case he tried any more legal stunts. But the best part was the silence that followed. No more calls begging me to reconsider. No more guilt trips about family loyalty. No more casual assumptions about what I owed them. I used the proceeds from the sale to buy a small but perfect townhouse in the Arts District. 2 bedrooms, a roof deck where I could garden, and a home office with soaring ceilings and windows that caught the light all day. I invested the remainder and watched my financial security grow for the first time in years. 6 months later, Marcus and Jennifer bought a 4-bedroom colonial in a good school district. They managed it with a conventional mortgage and some help from Jennifer's parents. Imagine that. The house was lovely, with a big backyard and good schools nearby. Their daughter Sophia adjusted beautifully and never once asked about Aunt Sarah's magic garden. Mom sent a Christmas card with a generic Happy Holidays message and no invitation to dinner. Dad didn't acknowledge my birthday. Marcus blocked me on all social media platforms. I found I didn't miss any of it. What I missed was the fantasy I'd carried for 34 years. The dream of a loving family where I mattered as much as everyone else, where my needs were considered as important as theirs. Losing that fantasy hurt more than losing the relationships themselves. But in its place, something better grew. Self-respect, boundaries, the knowledge that I could stand up for myself and survive the consequences. Rachel helped me host a housewarming party in my new place. Friends from work came, neighbors I was getting to know, fellow small business owners from the local entrepreneur group I'd joined. We ate off paper plates and drank wine from plastic cups, and it was the warmest, most genuine celebration I'd attended in years. "Any regrets?" Rachel asked as we cleaned up afterward. I looked around my small but perfect home, at the art on the walls and the plants on the windowsills, and the life I'd built entirely on my own terms. "Just one," I said. "I regret not doing it sooner." The final vindication came a year later when I ran into Jennifer at the farmer's market. She was hugely pregnant with their third child, pushing a stroller and looking harried. "Sarah!" She seemed genuinely happy to see me, as if our last encounter had never happened. "You look wonderful. Love the new house?" "I do." "Congratulations on the baby." "Thanks. Actually, I wanted to apologize for, all that drama. Marcus was so stressed about the house hunting, and I just got caught up in the excitement of your parents' offer." I studied her face, looking for signs of manipulation, but saw only genuine remorse and exhaustion. "It's okay, Jennifer. Things worked out for everyone." "They did, didn't they? Our place is perfect for us, and I heard you're doing really well with your business." She was right. With the financial breathing room from the house sale, I'd been able to take on bigger projects, hire an assistant, even turn down clients who weren't a good fit. My business had doubled in size, and I was happier than I'd been in years. "How are things with your parents?" she asked carefully. "Honestly, we don't talk much anymore, but I'm okay with that." Jennifer nodded. "Marcus misses you, He won't admit it, but he asks about you sometimes." Maybe that was true. Maybe it wasn't. It didn't matter anymore. I'd learned that family isn't about blood or obligation or shared history. It's about mutual respect, love without conditions, and the willingness to see each other as whole, valuable people. My parents had given Marcus a $950,000 head start in life and then tried to take my house. When I refused, they'd called me selfish and vindictive and cruel. They'd mobilized the entire extended family to pressure me into compliance. But they'd also given me something